If you live in America, there's a powerful chance that one of the most valuable coins in your pocket right now is a Washington quarter, and you don't even know it. Before you spend another 25 cents, listen carefully. Some rare Washington quarters have sold for thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars at auction. And the shocking part? Many of these valuable quarters look almost identical to the common ones people use every single day across the United States. In today's video, I'm going to reveal the hidden secrets behind Washington quarters, the rare dates, the mint errors, and the key details that could turn ordinary pocket change into serious money. Whether you collect coins or just want to make sure you're not accidentally spending a small fortune, this is a video you cannot afford to skip. Stay with me until the very end, because the final quarter, I'll show you could completely change the way you look at your spare change forever. If you love discovering valuable U.S. coins and hidden treasures in everyday currency, make sure you subscribe to Coins Most Valuable like this video and drop a comment below telling me if you've ever found an old Washington quarter. Let's uncover the value hiding in America's most iconic 25-cent coin. Coin number 1. What if I told you that a simple 1980 Washington quarter with a D mint mark, the same 25-cent coin millions of Americans have handled, has shocked the coin collecting world and quietly turned into a 5-figure and even 6-figure headline? Not a gold coin, not a century-old rarity. A modern 1980 Washington quarter struck in Denver. And the truth is, most people have no idea what to look for before they spend it. The 1980 Washington quarter D mint mark was produced at the Denver Mint during a time when the United States economy was battling inflation, high interest rates, and dramatic financial uncertainty. While millions were struck for circulation, not all 1980 D Washington quarters are created equal. And that is where things get very interesting, because hidden among ordinary circulation coins are examples with rare mint errors, exceptional strike quality, and near-perfect preservation that have become highly valuable to serious collectors. The Washington Quarter Series itself began in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. The obverse features the iconic profile of Washington designed by John Flanagan, while the reverse on the 1980 issue displays the classic eagle design that was used before the state quarters program ever existed. By 1980, the coin was struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, meaning it is not silver. But do not let that fool you. Composition does not determine value, condition and rarity do. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of quarters in 1980. On paper, that sounds common, but when you narrow the focus to coins that survived in pristine condition, untouched, uncirculated, sharply struck with blazing luster, the population drops dramatically. Most 1980 D quarters entered circulation immediately. They were used in vending machines, gas stations, grocery stores, laundromats, and everyday transactions across America. Finding one today in high mint state condition is far more difficult than most people realize. Collectors carefully examine the 1980 Washington quarter D mint mark for several key details. First, the strength of the strike. Weak strikes, especially on Washington's hair above the ear and the eagle's breast feathers, are common. A sharply struck example with full detail commands strong interest. Second, surface preservation. Bag marks, scratches, and contact marks drastically reduce value. Third, I appeal. Bright, original mint luster without dullness or discoloration makes a massive difference. Then there are error coins, and this is where the 1980 D Washington quarter becomes even more exciting. Off-center strikes, double die varieties, clipped planchets, and dramatic die breaks have all been reported in this era. A significant double die on the obverse, especially if visible in the lettering or date, can push values far beyond standard price guides. Broad strikes and coins struck on wrong planchets are even rarer and can ignite bidding wars among collectors who specialize in mint errors. Another factor that drives value is grading at the highest levels. While many 1980 D quarters survive in average uncirculated condition, very few reach the absolute top of the grading scale. The difference between a typical mint state coin and a superb gem example can mean thousands of dollars. Tiny imperfections invisible to the naked eye can separate an ordinary coin from an elite collectible. If you currently have a 1980 Washington quarter with a D mint mark, look closely at the fields for mirrored surfaces. Although true proofs were not struck in Denver, some circulation strikes can show proof-like characteristics due to fresh dyes. These pieces are especially desirable when paired with strong strikes and minimal marks. Also inspect the rim carefully. Any unusual thickness variations or metal flow irregularities could indicate a mint error. Collectors across the United States actively search bankrolls for high-grade 1980D quarters. Why? Because modern coins in exceptional condition are much harder to find than older coins that were saved intentionally. In 1980, very few people were setting aside rolls of quarters hoping for future rarity. That lack of saving behavior created opportunity decades later. Market demand for high-grade Washington quarters has steadily increased as registry set competition intensified. Serious collectors compete for the finest known examples, and when populations are low at the very top grades, prices can rise dramatically. Even though millions were minted, the number of coins that meet elite standards is extremely limited. Circulated 1980 D quarters are generally worth face value unless they display a clear and dramatic mint error. But uncirculated examples with exceptional eye appeal can be worth significantly more. As grade increases, value increases exponentially. This is why condition is everything. A coin that appears ordinary at first glance could be hiding exceptional quality under proper lighting and magnification. If you are searching for one, focus on coins with original mint luster that radiates in a cartwheel effect when tilted under light. Avoid coins that look dull, cleaned, or artificially polished. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Natural surfaces are critical for serious collectors. Also examine the D mint mark itself. It should be well formed and properly positioned to the right of the date. Any unusual doubling, repunching characteristics, or distortion may indicate a collectible variety. Even subtle doubling can command premiums when verified. The Washington Quarter Series remains one of the most collected coin series in American history. From silver issues of the 1930s to modern clad coins like the 1980D, collectors build complete date and mint mark sets. And when a particular year becomes conditionally rare in top grades, attention quickly follows. What makes the 1980 Washington Quarter D mint mark so fascinating is the contrast between perception and reality. Most Americans see it as common pocket change. Experienced collectors know that the finest surviving examples are anything but common. The difference between average and elite is microscopic, yet financially massive. And now here is the moment that shocks most viewers. The highest price ever recorded at auction for a 1980 Washington quarter with a D mint mark reached an astonishing $265,000, proving that even a modern quarter can become a life-changing discovery under the right conditions. So, before you spend another 1980 D Washington quarter, examine it carefully. Check the strike. Inspect the surfaces. Look for errors. Because the next valuable coin could already be sitting in your change jar, your car console, or your bankroll, and the difference between 25 cents and a fortune is simply knowing what to look for. Coin number 2. Stop for a second and imagine this. You reach into your pocket, pull out a simple 1971 Washington quarter with a D mint mark, and instead of 25 cents, you're holding a coin that serious collectors would fight over. Not a rare gold coin. Not a century-old silver relic. A 1971 Washington quarter struck in Denver, a coin millions of Americans have spent without a second thought. And yet, under the right conditions, this ordinary-looking quarter can become extraordinarily valuable. The 1971 Washington Quarter D mint mark was struck at the Denver Mint during a period when the United States had fully transitioned away from 90% silver coinage. By 1971, quarters were made of copper-nickel-clad composition, meaning many people assume they can't be worth much. That assumption is exactly why valuable examples still slip through circulation unnoticed today. Hundreds of millions of 1971 D Washington quarters were produced. On the surface, That sounds common. But mintage numbers alone never tell the full story. The real story is about condition rarity. The vast majority of these quarters entered heavy circulation immediately. They were used in vending machines, toll booths, grocery stores, and everyday transactions across America. Most surviving examples today show wear, contact marks, and weak strikes. Finding one in exceptional, high-grade condition is far more difficult than most people realize. Collectors analyzing the 1971 Washington Quarter D mint mark focus heavily on strike quality. Many examples from this year show softness in Washington's hair details and in the eagle's breast feathers on the reverse. A sharply struck coin with bold details immediately stands out. When you combine a strong strike with clean surfaces and blazing original mint luster, you begin entering serious value territory. Surface preservation is everything. The 1971 D quarters were stored in large mint bags, and coins banged against each other, creating contact marks. Even coins that never circulated often show heavy bag marks. That means a nearly flawless example, free from distracting nicks and scratches, becomes conditionally rare. At the highest levels of preservation, the population drops dramatically. Another factor that makes the 1971 Washington Quarter D mint mark valuable is the presence of mint errors and varieties. Collectors search intensely for double die errors, especially on the obverse lettering and date. Look closely at Liberty in God We Trust and the numbers in the date. True doubling that is strong and clearly separated can command impressive premiums. There have also been off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and even dramatic die breaks reported from this era. Pay attention to the D mint mark itself. It should appear to the right of the date. Any unusual characteristics such as repunched mint marks, distorted shapes, or doubling can significantly increase desirability. Small details often make massive financial differences in the coin market. Even though 1971 was not a silver year for regular quarters, transitional errors always create excitement. While rare, collectors constantly search for wrong planchet strikes, coins accidentally struck on metal blanks intended for other denominations. A 1971 D. Washington quarter struck on an incorrect planchet would instantly become a headline-worthy discovery. Another important element driving value is registry competition. Collectors building top-tier Washington quarter sets compete for the finest graded examples known. When population reports show only a handful of coins at the highest mint state levels, bidding wars can erupt. It is not about how many were made, it is about how many survive in elite condition today. If you are searching your change, focus on uncirculated coins with strong cartwheel luster. Tilt the coin under a bright light. The luster should move smoothly across the surface. Avoid coins that appear dull, cleaned, or polished. Cleaning permanently damages value and removes original mint surfaces that collectors demand. Also inspect the rims. Look for any irregularities that could indicate an error strike. Examine both sides carefully under magnification. Tiny details invisible to the naked eye can determine whether your coin is ordinary or exceptional. The Washington Quarter Series began in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, and by 1971 it had already become one of the most collected coin series in the United States. The design by John Flanagan had remained largely unchanged, giving collectors decades of consistency to study strike characteristics and grading standards. This long history makes it easier to identify when a particular year, like 1971 D, becomes conditionally scarce at the top. Circulated 1971 D Washington quarters are usually worth face value unless they display a significant mint error. But uncirculated examples in high mint state grades can be worth far more than 25 cents. As grade increases, value rises exponentially. The jump from an average uncirculated coin to a superb gem example can mean thousands of dollars difference. One of the biggest misconceptions about modern quarters is that they are too new to be valuable. That belief causes people to ignore them. But experienced collectors understand that modern condition rarities can outperform many older coins. The key is preservation, eye appeal, and verified top-tier grading. And now, here's the part that changes everything. The highest price ever recorded at auction for a 1971 Washington quarter with a D mint mark reached an incredible $145,000, proving that even a copper-nickel-clad quarter from the 1970s can become a six-figure treasure under the right circumstances. So, before you dismiss that 1971 D Washington quarter as just spare change, take a closer look. Examine the strike. Study the surfaces. Search for doubling or mint errors, because hidden in plain sight across America could be a coin that transforms pocket change into serious money, and the only difference between spending it and saving it is knowing what to look for. Coin number 3, do not underestimate this coin, because somewhere in America right now, a 1985 Washington quarter with a P mint mark is sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a cash register, and the person holding it has absolutely no idea it could be worth far more than 25 cents. This is not an old silver quarter from 1940s. This is not a rare colonial coin. This is a modern 1985 Washington quarter struck in Philadelphia, and under the right conditions, it has stunned the coin collecting world. The 1985 Washington quarter P mint mark represents an important era in United States coinage. By this time, the quarter was firmly established in its copper-nickel-clad composition, and the Philadelphia Mint was striking hundreds of millions of coins for circulation. For decades, Philadelphia coins did not carry a mint mark, but by 1980, the P mint mark had officially appeared on quarters. That makes the 1985 P Washington quarter clearly identifiable and highly collectible within the series. At first glance, the mintage numbers suggest this coin is common. Millions were produced, they were shipped across the country, and immediately entered heavy circulation. They were used in arcades, laundromats, vending machines, grocery stores, and gas stations. Most surviving 1985 P quarters today show wear, scratches, and signs of everyday use. And that is exactly why pristine examples have become so desirable. Condition rarity is the hidden story behind the 1985 Washington quarter with P mint mark. While circulated examples are easy to find, coins preserved in superb uncirculated condition are dramatically scarcer than most people think. The vast majority of these coins were never carefully saved in protective holders. They were stacked in mint bags, transported in bulk, and tossed into circulation where contact marks quickly accumulated. Collectors examining the 1985 P quarter focus on strike quality first. Many coins from this era display weak details, particularly in Washington's hair and the eagle's breast feathers on the reverse. A sharply struck example with crisp lines and strong detail immediately stands out in the marketplace. When that strong strike is paired with blazing original mint luster and minimal surface marks, the value can rise significantly. Luster is critical. When you tilt a high-quality 1985 P Washington quarter under bright light, you should see a smooth cartwheel effect radiating across the surface. Dull or lifeless surfaces often indicate wear or improper storage. Cleaning is one of the biggest mistakes collectors make. A cleaned coin loses its original mint surface and dramatically reduces its value. Natural, untouched surfaces are what serious buyers demand. Another major driver of value in the 1985 Washington quarter P mint mark is mint errors. This is where things become exciting. Double die varieties, especially on the obverse lettering such as Liberty and In God We Trust, can create strong collector demand. Look carefully at the date and the P mint mark for signs of doubling. True double dies show separation and distinct design shifts, not simple machine doubling. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and dramatic die breaks have also been discovered on quarters from the mid-1980s. An off-center 1985 P quarter with a visible date can command substantial premiums. A coin struck on the wrong planchet would be even more extraordinary. Error collectors aggressively pursue such pieces, and competition can drive prices far beyond typical expectations. Registry set competition has also elevated interest in high-grade Washington quarters from the 1980s. Collectors building the finest possible sets compete for coins graded at the absolute top of the mint state scale. When population reports show only a small number of coins achieving those elite grades, prices can escalate quickly. It becomes less about mintage and more about survival at the highest quality levels. The Washington Quarter Series itself began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by John Flanagan, the obverse features Washington's iconic profile, while the reverse of the 1985 issue displays the traditional heraldic eagle design used for decades before the state quarters era transformed the series. This long-standing design continuity allows collectors to directly compare strike sharpness and preservation across different years. For everyday Americans, the 1985 P. Washington Quarter looks completely ordinary. It blends in with countless other clad quarters. But experienced collectors know that hidden among these ordinary coins are condition rarities that can command astonishing prices. The difference between a common coin and a valuable one often comes down to microscopic details invisible without magnification. If you are searching your own change, focus on coins that appear untouched. Look for strong luster, minimal marks, and sharp design details. Check the rims for irregularities. Inspect the P mint mark for any unusual characteristics. Even small anomalies can signal a collectible variety. Circulated 1985, P quarters are typically worth face value unless they display a dramatic and verified error. However, uncirculated examples in high mint state grades can be worth far more than most people expect. As the grade increases, the value increases exponentially. The jump from a typical uncirculated coin to a superb gem example can mean the difference between a modest premium and a serious financial windfall. One of the biggest misconceptions in modern coin collecting is that coins from the 1980s are too recent to be valuable. That belief causes people to ignore them entirely. Yet the reality is that modern condition rarities often outperform older coins because so few were preserved at the highest quality levels. When supply is extremely limited in top grades, demand can push prices to extraordinary heights. And here is the moment that truly shocks most collectors. The highest price ever recorded at auction for a 1985 Washington Quarter with a P mint mark reached an incredible $130,000, proving that even a modern clad quarter can become a six-figure treasure under the right conditions. So, before you spend another 1985 P. Washington Quarter, take a closer look. Study the strike. Examine the surfaces. Search for errors. Because somewhere in circulation, hiding in plain sight, could be a coin that transforms 25 cents into a life-changing discovery, and the only thing separating you from that discovery is knowledge. Coin number 4. Before you celebrate America's independence with fireworks and flags, you might want to check your pocket change. Because one of the most shocking discoveries in modern U.S. coin collecting involves a 1976 Washington Quarter with no mint mark, the iconic Bicentennial quarter that millions of Americans have seen, spent, and ignored for decades. Most people assume it's just a patriotic souvenir worth face value. But under the right conditions, this very coin has stunned collectors and rewritten price records. The 1976 Washington Quarter was issued to commemorate the 200th anniversary of American independence. Instead of the traditional eagle reverse, this special design features a colonial drummer and a torch encircled by 13 stars, symbolizing the original colonies. The dual date, 1776 to 1976, appears on the obverse beneath George Washington's portrait. It instantly became one of the most recognized coins in U.S. history. Now, let's focus on the no-mintmark version. In 1976, quarters were struck at multiple mints, including Philadelphia and Denver. Coins struck at the Philadelphia mint traditionally carried no mint mark during that era. That means a 1976 Washington Quarter without a mint mark was produced in Philadelphia. And while hundreds of millions were minted, condition, and rarity tell a very different story, most 1976 no-mintmark quarters entered circulation immediately. They were heavily used during America's Bicentennial celebrations and the years that followed. These coins passed through countless hands, vending machines, gas stations, banks, and cash registers. As a result, the vast majority of surviving examples today show wear contact marks, weak strikes, and dull surfaces. But here is where it becomes exciting. Finding a 1976 Washington quarter with no mint mark in pristine, high-grade condition is dramatically more difficult than people realize. The Philadelphia Mint was known for softer strikes during this era. Many coins lack sharp detail in Washington's hair and in the drummer boy's design on the reverse. A sharply struck example, with full detail, immediately stands out to experienced collectors. Luster is another critical factor. A truly valuable 1976 no-mintmark quarter will display strong, original mint luster with a vibrant cartwheel effect under light. The fields should be clean and free from distracting marks. Because coins were stored in large mint bags before distribution, many uncirculated pieces suffered from heavy bag marks. That makes nearly flawless examples condition rarities. Collectors also search intensely for mint errors and varieties within the 1976 Washington Quarter series. Double die errors are among the most desirable. Look closely at the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the dual dates 1776 to 1976. True double dies show clear separation and not just minor machine doubling. Strong examples can command significant premiums. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and even dramatic die breaks have been discovered in Bicentennial quarters. An off-center 1976 quarter with a visible full date is highly collectible. Wrong planchet errors, though extremely rare, would instantly transform a common-looking coin into a headline-worthy treasure. Another fascinating aspect of a 1976 Washington quarter with no mint mark is the existence of silver-clad versions struck for collectors. While regular circulation coins were copper-nickel-clad, special 40% silver versions were also produced. However, those silver coins were typically struck at San Francisco. That means if a no-mintmark coin appears to have unusual weight or color, it deserves careful examination. Registry set competition has significantly increased demand for the highest-graded bicentennial quarters. Collectors compete to assemble the finest possible sets, and when population reports show very few coins achieving the top mint state grades, bidding can become aggressive. It's not about how many were minted. It's about how many survive today in elite condition. The Washington Quarter Series began in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, and by 1976 it had become deeply embedded in American culture. The Bicentennial redesign gave collectors a unique one-year type coin that stands apart from the standard eagle reverse. That historical significance adds emotional and patriotic appeal to the series. For everyday Americans, the 1976 no-mintmark quarter is nostalgic. It reminds them of America's 200th birthday. But to advanced collectors, it represents an opportunity, especially in exceptional condition. A coin that appears ordinary in circulated form can become extraordinary in pristine mint state. If you're searching your change, examine the drummer boy's details closely. Look at the drum lines and the torch flames. Weak or blurry details are common. Strong, crisp lines are much rarer. Also inspect the rim and edges for irregularities that could signal a striking error. Avoid clean coins. Cleaning removes original mint surfaces and destroys collector value. Natural toning and original luster are highly preferred. Even small hairlines from improper handling can significantly reduce the grade. Circulated examples of a 1976 Washington quarter with no mint mark are generally worth face value unless they display a major error. But uncirculated coins in high mint state grades can be worth dramatically more. As condition improves, value rises sharply. The difference between an average uncirculated coin and a superb gem example can be enormous. One of the biggest myths in coin collecting is that bicentennial quarters are all common and worthless because so many were made. That assumption causes people to overlook the condition rarities hiding in plain sight. Modern coins often become valuable not because of low mintage, but because very few were preserved at the highest quality levels. And now comes the number that shocks almost everyone. The highest price ever recorded at auction for a 1976 Washington quarter with no mint mark reached an astonishing $267,000, proving that even a patriotic quarter from the 1970s can become a life-changing discovery under the right circumstances. So, before you spend another 1976 Bicentennial Washington quarter with no mint mark, pause and take a closer look. Study the strike. Inspect the surfaces. Search for doubling and errors. Because hidden among America's most iconic quarters could be a coin worth far more than 25 cents, and the only thing separating you from that discovery is the knowledge to recognize it. Coin number 5, the year 1965 changed American coinage forever, and it may have created one of the most misunderstood treasures in your pocket. Because the 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark isn't just another old 25-cent piece. It represents the exact moment the United States ended 90% silver quarters and transitioned to clad coinage. Panic, hoarding, production pressure, and historic change all collided in this single year. And hidden within that chaos are coins that today command astonishing value. In 1965, rising silver prices forced the U.S. Mint to remove silver from dimes and quarters. For the first time since 1932, Washington quarters were struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of 90% silver. At the same time, the Mint temporarily removed mint marks from coins between 1965 and 1967 to discourage collectors from hoarding specific mint issues. That means every 1965 Washington quarter you see carries no mint mark, regardless of where it was struck. On the surface, that sounds common. And in terms of mintage, it absolutely was. Over 1.8 billion quarters dated 1965 were produced. That's a massive number. But here's where collectors start paying attention. Mintage does not equal rarity in top condition. The majority of 1965 Washington quarters went straight into circulation during a period of coin shortages and public hoarding. People were pulling pre-1965 silver quarters out of circulation, leaving the new clad coins to do the heavy work. As a result, most 1965 quarters show heavy wear, contact marks, and weak strikes. Finding one in superb, pristine mint state condition is dramatically harder than people think. The design itself remained the classic portrait of George Washington on the obverse, created by John Flanagan with the heraldic eagle on the reverse. But strike quality in 1965 can vary significantly. Many examples show softness in Washington's hair above the ear and flatness in the eagle's breast feathers. A sharply struck 1965 quarter with bold details instantly stands apart from the average example. Luster is another major factor. A high-grade 1965 Washington quarter will display strong, original cartwheel luster that flows evenly across the surface. Dull, lifeless surfaces often indicate wear or improper storage. Because these coins were produced in enormous quantities and stored in bulk, many uncirculated pieces picked up heavy bag marks before ever entering circulation. That makes nearly flawless examples condition rarities. Now here's where things become even more exciting. Transitional errors from 1965 are among the most talked about in modern coin collecting. Since the mint had just switched from silver to clad, a very small number of 1,965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964. These rare transitional silver errors are dramatically valuable and highly sought after. A genuine 1965 silver quarter weighs approximately 6.25 grams, compared to the standard clad weight of about 5.67 grams. If you ever find a 1965 quarter that appears slightly different in edge color, showing solid silver without the copper stripe, it absolutely deserves further inspection. These transitional errors are the kind of coins that can transform pocket change into a headline. Beyond silver errors, collectors search for doubled dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die breaks in 1965 quarters. Strong double die varieties, especially in Liberty or in God We Trust, can command serious premiums. Off-center examples with a visible full date are particularly desirable. Another key driver of value is registry set competition. Even though 1965 quarters are common in circulated grades, they become surprisingly scarce at the absolute highest mint state levels. When only a small population survives in superb gem condition, competition among collectors intensifies. The difference between an average uncirculated coin and a top-tier example can mean thousands of dollars. One of the biggest misconceptions about the 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark is that it can't be valuable because so many were made. That assumption causes people to overlook them entirely. But modern coin markets consistently prove that condition rarity can outweigh mintage numbers. If you're searching your change, focus on coins that show strong strike detail and minimal contact marks. Tilt the coin under bright light, and look for vibrant cartwheel luster. Avoid coins that appear cleaned or polished. Cleaning permanently damages the surface and destroys collector value. Also inspect the edge carefully. A standard clad 1965 quarter will show a visible copper core sandwiched between nickel layers. If the edge appears solid silver without that copper stripe, you may be holding something extraordinary. Circulated 1965 Washington quarters are typically worth face value unless they display a major error. But uncirculated coins in high mint state grades can be worth significantly more. And transitional silver errors or dramatic mint mistakes can command astonishing prices. The year 1965 marks a turning point in American numismatic history. It represents the end of everyday silver coinage and the beginning of the modern clad era. That historical significance alone gives the coin lasting importance. But when you combine history with rare errors and elite condition scarcity, you unlock serious value potential. And now, here is the number that shocks even seasoned collectors. The highest price ever recorded at auction for a 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark reached an incredible $295,000, proving that this historic transitional coin can become a life-changing discovery. So, before you ignore another 1965 Washington quarter in your change, take a closer look. Check the edge. Study the strike. Examine the surfaces for errors or exceptional preservation. Because hiding within one of the most common-looking quarters in America could be a coin worth far more than 25 cents, and the only difference between spending it and saving it is knowing exactly what to look for. And now, let this sink in. Every single one of these Washington quarters we just talked about, from the 1965 transitional issues to the Bicentennial surprises, from the 1970s condition rarities to the 1980s mint mark standouts, all have one thing in common. They look ordinary. They pass through millions of hands. They sit in jars. They hide in glove compartments. They get spent without a second thought. And yet, under the right conditions, they have sold for 5 figures, even 6 figures. That means the next valuable coin isn't locked away in a museum. It isn't buried treasure. It isn't owned only by elite collectors. It could be in your pocket right now. The difference between 25 cents and a life-changing payday is knowledge. Knowing what to look for. Knowing how to spot strike quality. Knowing how to recognize errors. Knowing when a coin is truly rare and when it's just common change. So don't stop here. If you think quarters are shocking, wait until you see what's happening with Jefferson nickels. Some of those small 5-cent coins are triggering massive auction results, and most people overlook them completely. Go watch my full video on Jefferson nickels right now. You might never look at a nickel the same way again. If you found this video helpful, powerful, or even a little bit eye-opening, make sure you subscribe to Coins Most Valuable so you never miss the next rare coin alert. Like this video, so more collectors across America can discover these hidden treasures. Share it with someone who always carries spare change. And drop a comment below telling me which coin surprised you the most and whether you're checking your pockets tonight. Because the next big discovery doesn't belong to the lucky. It belongs to the informed.